Hello, good morning, and welcome to the United Stand. My name's Levin2K, and I'm here to bring you all of the latest Manchester United news. Guys, look, we the title is transfer race, and I think the big thing to sort of focus on this morning is, look, the transfer deadline day is coming. We know that we need to bring in another player, ideally someone to help out in the midfield. And the big question around United now is whether that's actually going to be done. Now, I've come on the show in the past couple of weeks, and I've given my thoughts on it. And my general opinion is I doubt we're going to see any movement, mainly because players need to go out the door. We know this, players need to, leave before players can come in, that kind of thing. And there just hasn't been as much movement on that behalf as possible. One of those players who you would have thought would have been moved out would have been Andreas Pereira. He's been loaned out, right? So there's all these sort of things in a way. And it's interesting to know Andy Mitten, who is somebody who has covered United, for so many, longer than I've been alive, I'm pretty sure, right? And, he was told by, a source at the club, look, I was told a week ago, don't bet against someone else coming in, so it's clear, right? It's clear that, people at United understand we need somebody to come in. It's just a matter of being able to get to that point where we can do something. But look, we'll get more into it. We'll get more into it. My name is Evan2K once again. Thank you guys all for hanging out. I know people are missing Mark as always. I'm missing Mark. But guys, you need to realize it's been one day. It was literally just Monday. I'm seeing people in the chat going, "Oh, has Mark left the chat? Where is Mark?" Guys, relax. It was the one day. Trust me, if Mark could be here, he would be here. Like I've seen people go, "Oh no, without Mark, I can't do it anymore. I can't take it." Trust me, guys, that's not going to make him appear all of a sudden. And it's not more likely to make it never happen again, quite frankly. If he was here, he would have been here. He couldn't be here. That's just the reality behind it. But don't worry, he'll be back soon. I promise. And if he's not back soon, you can personally come and ask me why he's not back. But he's not doing a cane or anything, so don't worry about that one. But look, we got some stories. We got some stories to talk about. Fabrizio Romano, the one and only, who was on the show yesterday with Beth. Shout out to Beth. Had a great show with Romano. Fabrizio essentially said PSG and Manchester United are in contact with Eduardo Camavinga and Stade Rennes to understand the situation. No offer as of yet. Both clubs is focusing on departures. Now, of course, look, we know that, Camavinga is somebody who probably is going to be moving away from Rennes in the next couple of days, right? Realistically, like I said on the show yesterday, realistically, for them to let him go for free would be unwise of them, especially with the sort of financial situation a lot of French clubs are dealing with. He's not going to be someone that they want to let go for free, 100%. But of course, whether someone actually comes in for them and whether they can find an agreement with the two clubs that seem to be in a bit of a race for him. Fabrizio said it's an open race. He described it as that. And it seems to be an open race between us and PSG. Now, I don't know. Like I said yesterday, I don't see why PSG would go after him outside of the fact that he is just a brilliant talent that, you want to have in your club, which, if anything, maybe that makes more sense to why PSG want him, right? He's the kind of guy where he doesn't come in for them instantaneously and make significant impacts, but long-term, he's a great sort of asset to have and somebody he probably will develop into the kind of player you want to have long-term. For us, he comes in and it's a similar sort of angle. The problem is for us is that we're not in the same sort of luxury position as PSG. PSG have a, world-class midfield at their hands, at their disposal. We don't necessarily have that completed midfield and we are looking for someone to come in and complete that midfield. Camavinga doesn't necessarily do that for us, right? I think, the game against Southampton made it abundantly clear, even more so to me, what it is that we need. And as much as I'm really high on Camavinga as a talent and as a prospect, do I think a teenager has the right sort of physical profile to come in and do that job instantly for us? Not quite yet. I don't think that at this stage in his career that Camavinga is quite ready for, that next step up to the Premier League, instantly, right? We saw the way Southampton were pressing us in that midfield. They were doing a brilliant job. It's the reason why, a lot of the game, Matic looked non-existent. Fred was really struggling, right? Because Fred's the kind of player where, he takes too many touches on the ball. As soon as you take a couple, too many touches, Southampton were onto you instantly, right? And Camavinga coming into that midfield, I feel like that would be almost unfair on him, right? We've been talking about how we don't need to ease our new signings and all this nonsense, with Varane and Sancho. Whereas Camavinga, you probably do need to ease him in. We got a super chat here coming in from Vicky. Shout out to Vicky. He says, Martial's best season came when we played less of McFred. Pragmatic, slow football is playing to his weakness. He thrives in fast give and go football. Now, look, I'll be honest. I'm a fan of Martial. I've always, sort of liked Martial. I've never really been against him. Of course, I'm not sitting here saying I'm part of Martial FC or anything. The one thing I'll say with Martial that really concerns me in the game on Monday is he didn't look like he had it, because you're right? In the past, when Martial's looked at his best, he's very quick on the ball. He's a quick dribbler. He does things very fast, which is something that we want. We like that in Martial. It didn't look like he had that, this weekend. One too many touches. He was getting close down rather quickly because once again, Southampton's press was brilliant. He didn't look like he had it like that. And to be fair to him, he's coming back from an injury. He is coming back from an injury. He's coming back from a long stretch of not playing plenty of football. And it's the reason why, look, I'm not making conclusions. I personally believe that to sit here and make conclusions about, general themes, players, our title hopes after game 2 is ludicrous. I'll be quite frank. I've seen a lot of people, I've had people, sort of message me and things and go, Levin, man, do you think our title hope, like, there was a guy that came into my stream yesterday, little selfless plugs, twitch.tv/Levin2K. Guy came into my stream and he goes, Levin, do you think our title hopes are done? I'm like, hold up. It's the second game of the season. We're missing some of our best players. As much as that result is, poor and I'm not happy about it, and I can sit here and analyze how bad that performance was, let's not draw conclusions about our season that quickly. Let's not draw conclusions about Martial this quickly. It's clear that he needs minutes under his belt, right? He's been injured for a while. He had a poor stretch of form. He hasn't had football. He needs minutes. He needs a bit of time. The problem is that it's not going to be easy for him to get time. And so, in my mind, he needs to really make use of the time he is having, because Sancho is somebody who's coming into the squad and someone who's going to need a lot of time as well, in terms of, Sancho needs to get minutes under his feet to get integrated into the squad, ready for the return of, the likes of Rashford and Cavani and whatnot. And so Martial really has to be on it, The fact that Martial got subbed off, in the 53rd minute, before an hour, Martial got subbed off. He got subbed off before an hour. We all sit here and ridicule Ollie for his lack of using substitutions or using substitutions too late. When was the last time you saw Ollie take off his striker before an hour? It's clear that, Martial isn't quite right yet. And as much as, of course, Vicky, that, you can definitely attribute that to part of our midfield and things going wrong in that department, you also have to look at Martial. It's also, partly on the player as well. He needs to step up and improve in that sense. But appreciate the super chat. Julian came in with a super chat saying, we need one more signing, but it's not a CDM, it's a new manager. Ollie is simply not qualified enough. Literally the Andreas Pereira equivalent of a manager. Jensen came in with a chat saying Camavinga isn't a CDM at all. We need a specialist. Well, look, Camavinga definitely is somebody who is going to develop into either CDM or he's going to develop into a 6 or an 8. He's played as a 6, he's played as an 8. So to objectively say he's not a CDM is factually untrue, but nevertheless, Jensen. Kama, is Fred replacing or trade Fred for Saul? Says Robin. And we got Johan, who's saying, I'd love Camavinga, but I feel Neves is exactly what we need. Now, I've been someone on this channel who, when we were linked to Neves, when we were at a stage in the window where it was like, we're linked to Neves or Saul. So would I rather have Neves or Saul? That was sort of the option, right? I remember I did the show with Mark a couple of weeks ago, and essentially, my stance was Neves, and I sort of listed out all the reasons why Neves would be good for us, right? I was able to sit there and, and map it out perfectly, because I do think Neves would come in and he'd do a lot better of a job. You look at our problems on Sunday against Southampton, we couldn't progress the ball beyond the midfield. It was poor. The progression in the midfield, from in between their attackers and their midfielders, it was poor, absolutely poor. And so you look at Neves and you look at his strengths, and that's something that he'd be able to improve for us significantly. Neves does improve your ability to progress the ball. His ball playing ability is far better than a Fred or whoever it is else it's going to be, McTominay or whatever, right? But you know, Neves, you have to acknowledge also Neves' weaknesses, and Neves isn't the complete article, right? You know, Neves is still somebody who, you know, in terms of what we need, it's very difficult, guys. It's very difficult because the reality is, as much as we all know we need a CDM, and I think regardless of who it is, we do need to bring somebody in just for the pure sake of, you know, injuries and rotation and whatnot. Because look, the reason why I didn't think Matic was good in that game. I didn't think Matic was good. I think a pivot of Matic and Fred is rubbish. We should never see that pivot again. But the reason why Matic was playing was simply because McTominay wasn't 100% fit, right? Ollie himself said it. And so if that's what's going to be the pivot, if one of Fred or McTominay isn't fit, we definitely need to bring someone in just purely for the sake of rotation, right? But when you actually look at what we need and somebody who I think comes in and solves all of our problems, oh my goodness, it's really, really difficult. Like, there are not many players on earth that completely fit the profile of what we need. And you know, at different points in the past couple of years, there have been players who fit the profile for decent prices, and we've missed out. You know, the likes of Fabinho's and whatnot. And when we were linked to Kante, and we chose not to go for Kante, and all, you know, we've missed the boat on a couple of opportunities through the years. But you look at the people who come in and fit the profile of what we need, not many of them are available in the world. And the ones that are somewhat available, we've either missed out on, or they're just way too expensive, and you're going to have to do a deal at a price that the club clearly isn't willing to do at this stage, right? You know, you look at what we potentially would need, and you know, you need somebody who has the physical ability and the physical sort of attributes to be able to command almost that whole area of the midfield, right? Because realistically, you want that person so you can play Pogba and Bruno as almost 3/8 and have that free advanced, you know, role in the team. That is very rare to find. You need someone who has an ability to sweep up and do a lot of defensive work when it comes to tackles, interceptions, getting things like blocks, whatnot, and also has great ball playing ability. That is not easy to come across in world football at the moment. You know, you're looking at some of the top names in their position if you want to get all those things. So, you know, it's frustrating because I think we know what we need. We know what we need is not easy to come by, but you know, with a couple days left, hopefully we can sort of come to that conclusion and find somebody who maybe can fit the bill. Hey bro, love the show. Is Mark all right? Yep. You know, Cowden, Mark is all right. Guys, I assure you, Mark is all right. He is perfectly fine. A lot of you guys really do love Mark, understandably. You know, follow him on social media. You can actually see what Mark is doing. Like, it's not like he's in you know, he's hiding away or anything. You know, follow Mark on Instagram. You know, you can see his story. He's showing what he's doing. So trust me, he is all right. I'm sure he'll be back later. People saying Basum in the chat, people saying Tchouaméni. Look, there are definitely players who fit, you know, the profile in certain areas better than others, right? Tchouaméni is somebody who, you know, he's got the physical prowess, I think. He definitely has a physical prowess. He's quite a big lad. He's 6'2". He seems quite strong. He's been playing in the midfield in France for quite a while. And when you look at the defensive ability, he does that brilliantly, you know, loads of tackles, loads of interceptions. Of course, then the question would be, is his ball playing level at a standard that comes in and is instantly better than everything else we've got? That's where there's a question mark. I believe he would actually be good, and I would want Tchouaméni, 100%. I think Tchouaméni would be, you know, a lot better for us than what we have in Fred. But, you know, there are question marks there still, right? So, you know, Ndidi is the one that I personally have always said, when I did that Never show a couple weeks ago, when I've done any show, I've always said the one to me that I'd want is Ndidi. I think Ndidi is the closest thing we can get to everything, you know, that complete package of all the things I described. But we got a super chat here from Brad Lewis, who says, how will everyone react if we did get Camavinga and Ollie puts him on the bench alongside Donny and he still plays McFred? Well, that's what would, like, I don't want you guys to kid yourselves, right? If you are somebody who believes, look, with 7 days left in the transfer window, with Rennes needing to sell Camavinga, we have a chance, let's go get Camavinga. Even if you do believe we can get him, don't be fooled. He's not going to come in and start. He won't. He will not come in and start. We will play, you know, Fred, we will play McTominay, and there will just be those guys. And maybe Camavinga gets a couple opportunities. Maybe he even, you know, knowing Ollie, Camavinga will get chucked in under 23s for a couple of weeks, right? But Yeah, look, oh man, it's a bit of a Debbie Downer, right? Reading the chat and coming to that realization that yeah, we might not be able to get the player that we need. But look, the one thing I'll say is with Donny, because you know Donny has been mentioned a lot in the chat. The one thing I'll say with Donny, and it's something that almost does frustrate me that I have to talk about this, and it's something that people I don't think understand. I'm gonna say this. Don't know why people don't understand it. I'm gonna say it one more time. Donny van der Beek has come up through Ajax's academy, and when playing for Ajax, he played in a multitude of positions. He played as a number 6, he played as a number 8, and he played as a number 10. Objectively, this is not my opinion. Objectively, factually, he played his best football as a number 10 for Ajax. That is true. Yes, that is true. But that doesn't mean he can't play as a number 8 or as a number 6. Now, when you look at him in our squad, is he going to be able to play as a number 10? No, because we have Bruno there. That's the reality. He's not playing a number 10 because we have Bruno there. So if he's ever going to fit into our team, realistically, it's going to be as a number 8 or as a number 6. We don't really play a system where we have 8s, so it's going to have to be at the number 6 for Donny van der Beek. Is Donny van der Beek the kind of player that is playing as a holding midfielder on his own and can hold down the midfield and play? And does he fit the profile of the kind of player I described earlier? No, that's not the type of number 6 he is. He's a number 6 who, almost in their role, has the freedom of a number 8 to get forward and advance, right? He played in a pivot next to Frankie de Jong, who was the holding midfielder, the one who stayed back and defended. So for the people who sit there and go, why are we not playing Donny van der Beek as our holding midfielder? Why do we play a pivot of Pogba and van der Beek? That's not going to work, because both of those players are players who you want to give the license and the freedom to roam forward, right? So that doesn't work. Please, this isn't FIFA. In FIFA, yeah, you can play Pogba, van der Beek. Even in Football Manager, you can play Pogba and van der Beek in a pivot and go win the treble. You would get absolutely exposed if you did it in real life. In transition, Donny van der Beek and Pogba in a pivot are not dealing with top Premier League teams in transition. It's not happening, right? Football just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. I wish it did, so that our problems would be solved. Now, another thing I will say about Donny van der Beek, we are all frustrated Donny van der Beek is not playing enough football. We are all frustrated he's not playing enough football, because there's been certain games where you look at our squad, you look at the bench, and you think, yeah, get him on. He can probably come into a game and impact the game. But let's not change the narrative now. Please, let us not change the narrative on Donny van der Beek. Donny van der Beek was never brought in to start. I've seen so many people over the past, couple of days or not say, yeah, Donny's a starter. Like, why is Donny? He's clearly someone who should be starting. Donny was never brought in to be a starter. Look back to when we bought Donny van der Beek. The whole narrative around Donny van der Beek was that he was coming in to be a squad player, somebody who would come into rotation, give Pogba or Bruno a chance to rest, give them competition, come into games and impact games as a sub. He was never brought in to be a starting player, and nobody was saying that back then. People weren't saying, I remember, because I wasn't on the channel back then, but I remember Mark shows back then. It was very much, he's coming in to be a rotation player. He comes in and he plays games, he comes off the bench, he maybe plays the odd game if Pogba's tired or Bruno's tired, but he was never brought in to be a star. That was never the narrative around Donny van der Beek. Let's not even do that. Speaking of, we mentioned Andy Mitten and from the Talk the Devils podcast earlier. That was something they talked about on the podcast. Andy Mitten said, yeah, when Donny van der Beek came in, I was never told by anyone at the club he was coming in to be a starter. Right? Like, that was not the thing behind Donny van der Beek coming into United. Now, obviously, like I said, he was brought in to sort of be a very sort of squad player that gets minutes and, provides competition. Has he been given that opportunity? No. And that's where the frustration should be. He's not been given the opportunity to come in and impact games. Like Southampton is the perfect example. He should have come onto the pitch and during that match, he should have. There should have been an opportunity for him to come on and show what he can do, but he wasn't. And there's been multiple times like that last season. But let's not change the narrative around Donny van der Beek. He's not someone that was brought in to be a starter. He's not someone that's going to come in and be a holding midfielder and solve our holding midfielder issues. That's not what he is. Brad Lewis coming over super chat saying, what we should do is try for a swap and cash or for Donny, for De Jong with Barca. That would be ideal. Look, Frankie de Jong is one of the few players on earth that fits the profile of what we want. But the key factor with Frankie de Jong, is he's not available. Barcelona are not going to let him go. Yes, Barcelona have financial issues. They need money and they'll take money if they can get money. but they also are very keen on keeping their best players. You know, they're not going to let go of Pedri. They're not going to let go of De Jong. They're not going to let go of Fatty, right? They want to keep their key best players, and De Jong is one of their key best players because he's a fantastic player. He's a fantastic footballer. He would come in and, I believe, solve all of our problems in the midfield. He would. But, you know, he's not available in that sense. He's not available in that sense. Look, the last thing I'll say about De Jong, about Donny van der Beek is, look, Donny van der Beek is somebody who I want to see him play in the pivot, and I think he deserves a chance. He definitely deserves a chance there. I understand the concerns. I understood last season why he wouldn't have played as much. I did understand. I didn't like it because I wanted to see him play, because I've watched Donny van der Beek play in the Champions League at the highest level and play well. You know, I've seen it happen with my own eyes, so I know he can play at the highest level. But of course, I also acknowledge the fact that he would struggle to come in, you know, and deal, and coming into the midfield in the Premier League. It's a different level. It's an absolutely different level. Once again, I'm referencing Andy Mitten here because, you know, he does such a great job. But he gave an example of Steven Pienaar, right? Steven Pienaar, somebody who played for Ajax quite a while ago. He moved to Dortmund and then moved to Everton. He's someone who has actually coached Donny van der Beek as well, and he's talked about Van der Beek and his move from Ajax to Manchester United. And Steven Pienaar has said, look, the jump from playing in Holland to playing in a Premier League midfield is almost like not even possible. Like that's something that he himself has said, where he said it's so difficult that, you know, to make that jump from the Eredivisie to the Premier League in terms of playing in the midfield, it's night and day, right? It's so much different. And that's why I understood, the first year, you know, Donny's gonna maybe struggle a bit. He's gonna be in and out. He's not gonna play as consistently as we want. The problem is now that I have is where Donny's played in preseason. He's probably one of our fittest players. He's bulked up. He's clearly tried to get stronger to adjust to the midfield in the Premier League. And when there was a clear opportunity for him to be given a chance, he wasn't given one. That's where my concerns come from. And that's where I struggle to understand whether or not, you know, Donny's actually going to be used, or whether there's a chance he ends up leaving the squad. I hope he doesn't leave. I hope he doesn't leave, because look, if Donny was to leave now, right? If Donny was to leave in the next week, it would be a disgrace. That's really, it would be a disgrace. You look at his tenure here and you'd think, yeah, that's embarrassing. That is absolutely embarrassing how he was dealt with. And so I really hope that doesn't happen. But who knows? Who knows? But Ziyech is banging now, and he also is from Ajax, says Dexter. But Ziyech is playing in a different position. Ziyech is playing in a more attacking phase of the pitch, right? Ziyech is playing as a right winger for Chelsea when he does play. And if you actually watch the way Tuchel plays and the way he structures their team, your right winger isn't actually even playing out that wide, right? Their two wide players are quite narrow, almost playing as second strikers, right? So it's very different from playing in the deeper midfield, right? That's what I'm talking about. When I'm talking about the difficulty, it's, you know, playing in the deeper midfield is where we know people struggle, right? I always reference the great article that Yaya Toure wrote on The Athletic, where he talked about bums, right? It's a very weird, you know, article, but there was a great point to it. And it's the fact that, you know, Yaya Toure said, when I went from Barcelona and I came to the Premier League or whatever, the jump in playing in the midfield is very different. You know, there's much more pressing in the Premier League. It's much more physical. You know, the refereeing is getting a bit better now. We saw with, you know, the way Bruno was sort of barged over and it wasn't given as a foul. You know, your refs are being a lot more sort of lenient on these kind of things. It's such a physical sort of league in that sense. You know, it's very different for Ziyech than it is for Donny to come into the league and play. Very, very different. Javon says, Levin, do you think we can pull Mbappe? I'm not thinking about it. Big man, I ain't thinking about Mbappe. I'll be real with you. I will be real. I love it because I think Mbappe is a brilliant player, but I'm not thinking about Mbappe. Look, it does seem like Mbappe is going to walk on a free next summer from PSG, but realistically, he's probably going to be, if he is going to leave PSG, I think realistically it's going to be to Real Madrid. But let's just hope it's not like Liverpool or something, because do you guys remember last year, right? I almost forgot about this completely. Do you guys remember last year when Liverpool fans were just completely obsessed with like Mbappe and they were very much going on about him like they are actually going to get him? I would hate for that. That would be awful if they were actually able to get him. Like, that would be absolutely awful. So hopefully he's off to Spain or something. But I'm not thinking about I'm not thinking about Mbappe at all. Not thinking about Mbappe. Yeah, guys, remember to like, share and subscribe. Appreciate all the people in chat, reminding people. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you to all the mods. Thank you to all the people watching live. And look, if you are, watching the stream right now, look, the United Sun helping me out here. Mbappe or Haaland? Which one would you rather have? I don't think we're going to get either at the moment, but, bit of fun. Why not? Brian says, realistically, we're not getting a DM. And once again, I think that does very much come down to a matter of, the club's recruitment strategy and process more so than it does come down to us knowing or acknowledging the fact that we need a DM. I want to believe people at the club know we need a DM because, there's people who work for Manchester United and their sole job, right? Remember this, guys. There will be people who work for United and their sole job is to analyze the match that we just played and analyze matches we've played in the past. And so there is no way somebody is collecting a full-time salary at Manchester United and has not acknowledged the fact that there's weaknesses in our midfield. It's impossible. I hope to God that it is not possible that there's nobody that has gone, yeah, the midfield wasn't great, right? The link between the midfield and the attacking phase was quite poor. We couldn't progress the ball there. There will be someone that has acknowledged that. So the people at the club will know that, yeah, we probably do need a midfielder. It's just about whether, they're able to actually get that deal done. And all we've heard is that we can't get that deal done until we let go of some players and sell some players. And it doesn't look like we're selling players, which means that we're probably not going to get anybody. So we got to wait this next week. If we're able to let people go, if you hear tomorrow that Lingard has been sold to West Ham for 25 million and somebody else maybe gets sold for 7 million, if you hear that, then maybe there's a chance. But at the moment, in terms of us sort of being in a race and us trying to, vie for anybody, it does look unlikely. It does look unlikely. Sam Brock's coming in with a super chat saying, Fred will never be a top Premier League midfielder. Upgrade with someone assured on the ball who can play a short forward pass and United will go up another level. And, to a certain degree, I do very much agree with you. We need somebody whose progressive ability is much better than Fred's. Fred's ball playing ability is not really up there. And it's weird because, you look at what Fred was, at his past club at Shakhtar, and he very much was that person where, you're looking at him and he's sort of progressing the ball and playing good passes and whatnot. But obviously it's a different level in the Premier League. The level is very much different and clearly you can't keep up. It's interesting to note though. It's interesting to note because, we want to sit here and be critical and whatnot. If we're being critical, look, Manchester City were once linked to Fred. Manchester City were once linked to Fred. It's not hard to believe that, Fred could have went to Manchester City and Pep would have turned him into almost what Rodri is now. It's not hard to believe that. I think, this is one place where you do look at Ollie and you look at the coaching staff and you go, where has the improvement been on Fred from when he came into now? How have you guys evolved Fred and developed Fred as a player, to the point where now we're sitting here saying we need someone in that position when realistically, maybe you could argue that Pep would have turned, Fred into the kind of player that we currently want so badly, right? You could make that argument. You could definitely make that argument. But, we've got another chat from Sam who says, Fred just doesn't have the calmness on the ball. He's very erratic. He takes a lot of touches and in some games he can get away with it, but in the game we just saw against Southampton, you can't get away with it. They just press too well. You can't get away with it. And look, as much as, Fred was awful on Sunday, because he just was, he wasn't good enough. He wasn't good enough whatsoever. He was, a key fundamental reason as to why we weren't good enough as a team. I don't want people to start drawing conclusions on Fred and saying, because I've seen people say sell Fred. Look, it's clear Fred should not be a starter for us, but Fred, I believe, still can be a useful sort of bench piece, somebody who comes in certain games, somebody who can come off the bench and provide energy and all these sort of things. Yeah, he can definitely do that. I've seen many people say sell Fred. That's not going to happen, and I don't think it should happen. Fred is somebody who has had great games for us in big matches. He has, right? He's played at Manchester City away and been man of the match for us. He's played in games where he's been brilliant for us. Over the past 2 years, there's been countless times where Fred looked like one of our best players on the pitch. It's happened. That is the truth. The key is he's got to be consistent. And that's a problem that we have with a lot of our best players. There's a lot of players that we have in the club right now who show sparks of brilliance and who show that they can be good players, they just can't do it consistently. And we need consistency if we want to compete with Chelsea and Man City. That is true. That is true. And that's just the reality with Fred. Fred should be benched. I agree. I agree. But until we bring in somebody better, I don't see that happening. I think Fred and McTominay will continue to be the pivot. I think once Rashford comes back, it'll be interesting to see what Ollie does. He'll probably play a pivot of Fred and Pogba. That will probably be the pivot we play. But no, I think we're going to see much more of Fred and McTominay. I do think so. I don't think we'll see much more of Matic. I don't expect to see Donny starting as a number 6, because if he was going to be starting as a number 6, I think he would have been subbed on to play as a number 6 in the most recent game. Mark is Mark, Levin is Levin. Exactly. I'm not Mark. You know, I get people that'll be like, "Yo, Levin, do Sean Dyche, do Jim White, Sky Sports News." I can't do that. You know, got to leave that to Mark. There was some more. Was there any more stories? I'm trying to see what anyone said. Well, there was some stories from the Times about Donny van der Beek, and they essentially said Donny van der Beek seems determined to win over Solskjaer. His representatives received offers this summer, but did not forward them to van der Beek, who made it clear earlier in the summer that he wanted to stay. Some have speculated that MUFC's signing of Donny van der Beek was not Solskjaer's choice, but that cannot be the case as he has a veto on all signings. And yeah, I think that's also an important thing, right? Somebody would have, you know, you're very right to believe, right? When a player signs, there will be somebody at the club who pushes that for that player more so than others, right? I think it was reported a couple of weeks ago that it was actually John Murtaugh, you know, back last year, before he was officially our football director. It was John Murtaugh that pushed for us to sign Ahmad and Pelestri. Great job, John. Great job, because both of them are brilliant, right? But there's always somebody who pushes for a player. Now, of course, managers will push for the players that they like and they believe in and they want, right? We know that. And I really do hope one day we find out who it was that pushed for Donny, because there would have been somebody in the club who said, you know, let's go for Donny more so than other people. But Ollie would have known. Ollie would have been told about it, and Ollie would have had to have agreed. He would have had to have said, yeah, look, I can, you know, use Ollie, you know, use Donny. He can come in and be a part of our squad. So, you know, maybe he's not his signing in the sense of it wasn't his first, you know, he didn't have a dream that Donny van der Beek was playing in the midfield for us, but he would have agreed to the deal. So, would you rather Goretzka or Saul? I'd rather Goretzka because he's a far better footballer than Saul. Like a significantly better footballer than Saul. Donny should be given a chance. Yeah, he should. Darth Vader impression. I'm not doing a Darth Vader impression, guys. You guys got that on my... If you guys want to rewind all the way back to the first show I ever did, then maybe you can get a Darth Vader impression, but you're not going to get that out of me today, unfortunately. Of course, guys, you got to remember we have the Champions League group stage draw on Thursday, so that's going to be something to watch out for. Our group, guys, we cannot afford to go out of the group stage. We have to make it through to the knockout rounds, and I believe we got to make a deep knockout run. I really do, because I think we have a squad that is good enough to do so. But it's going to be up to the manager to make the right team selections, implement the right tactics and whatnot. But it'll be interesting to see the group that we draw. I don't know why. I have a weird feeling we're just going to have Real Madrid in our group. I don't know why. Just a weird feeling. If we don't get Real Madrid, though, I'd love us to get Villarreal just so that we can smack them. And then when we smack them, everybody's going to point out Ollie and go, why couldn't you do this last year in the Europa League final? That would be pretty fun. But, yeah. McDonny will be much better than McFred. Once again, in McDonny, you have two players who, want the license to be able to go forward. I think last year in the result against Leeds, where we beat them, 6-1, 6-2, whatever it was, that was when most people realized, oh, I do know what McTominay is now. He's more of a number 8 than he is a number 6, which is true. He is more of a number 8 than he's a number 6. And in Donny, you also have someone who you want to give the license to go forward. So unless, McTominay is specifically being instructed to, stay back and really defend and not really have the license to go forward, which I don't think he's good enough, because if he was good enough to do that, I think, we wouldn't need to be going out to buy someone. Then, sure, McDonny would work. But no, I don't think McDonny would work. the same way that I don't think, you know, McFred works in a lot of games. The thing is that there are some games where McFred does work, whether you like to believe it or not, i.e. Leeds, right? And there's not many games beyond just the Leeds game where it works, to be fair. But you look at all the players we have and all the combinations that we have of players, and just none of the pivots really work. I know people believe in, you know, Donny and Matic, but I think Matic very much showed in that game against Southampton why, you know, for the most part, I just don't think he's going to be effective as I maybe did think while watching him in preseason, because he's very much not got the legs. He's too slow. He gets pressed way too easily. It's not, you know, Matic is very much, you know, past his best years, quite frankly. Levin, you're missing the point. The old United players alternated on going forward. We're way too static. Well, the one thing I'll say is, yeah, sure, you can look in the past, you know, to the likes of Scholes and Keane, and, you know, one would go, one would stay, that kind of thing, right? You know, we'd heard that many a times. And maybe that is something we look to do. The problem I'd say with that is that in modern football, that's not necessarily the way things work. Like, that's not as effective now, right? I think you do need a certain level of structure. Of course, you want fluidity, right? The best teams have great levels of fluidity. You look at Liverpool in their best years in the past 2 seasons ago, whatever, their front three incredibly fluid, lots of great stuff there. Manchester City have like a front 6 of players or a front 5 of players who can all interchange and are all very fluid. But in terms of creating a foundation for defense, it's quite good to have structure there, right? You know, quite good to have organization there. And so, and regardless, I don't think the players we have, maybe if you had players who are like actually like significantly good, like world-class players, they could do that. Because to be fair, right, for example, when you watch France play, right, there are possessions where Kante will go forward and like Rakitic and Rabiot and Pogba will stay back and Kante will go forward. Like, there are possessions where that happens. Of course, you will get that. It's not going to be the same person going forward every single time. But for the most part, you know who you want going forward, right? You want Pogba and you want Kante and Rabiot as insurance. So I get what you're saying, but I don't think it's as simple as that. Like, I don't think it's as simple as going, yeah, Donny and McTominay, like, you know, they're very much not on that level. With this style of football, I don't think we will be able to qualify for our group with Oli as our manager. Well, you know, let's it's two different things. Our style of football, the way we want to play football, is good enough to get through a group stage of a Champions League. You know, very much we want to play with a high tempo, high pressing game. That is good enough to get through a Champions League group stage. It's whether we actually have a good enough midfield, in my eyes. I think defensively and attacking wise, we can. It's whether our midfield will be good enough to get us through a lot of those games. At the moment, doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it. Mark looks a bit different yet. Yeah, of course. I haven't heard that one before. Guys, look, Mark will be back later today. Like I said, you know, as much as you guys miss Mark, and trust me, I miss Mark as well. I'm looking forward to his next show. You know, spamming, oh, where's Mark? It doesn't make him come back any faster, and it doesn't stop him from being gone ever again. If he could be here, he would be here, but you can't, so he's not. But I appreciate all the people showing love, showing some support in the chat. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, subscribe. My name's Levin2K. You can catch me on all forms of social media at Levin2K. That's 11 without the E at the start, and then the number 2 and K on the end. I will be back some point during the week, hopefully. Maybe with Mark, maybe not. Who knows? But I'll see you guys all soon. Have a nice day.